we'll have a few more folks trickle in, but if not, we'll have a nice intimate Wednesday today. Let me get past my prep slide because that's not what we want to see. Okay, so hopefully y'all see my screen and hopefully it's the 1 million cups slides. Okay, great. You never know. I feel like after all these times, it still feels like my first day on Zoom sometimes. Thanks all for being here. You're here at 1 million cups. Grab yourself a beverage if you need one and bookmark our link tree. We'd also encourage you to follow us on social and share or comment on posts. You know, we're really trying to, at the end of this year, early part of next year, to really spread the love of this community and help engage more folks. So we're open to all kinds of ideas on that front. So, and this is our link tree. It's got all the juicy details you might want about 1MC Seattle, especially that Zoom link. And so, you know, what makes us different? We really want to make sure this is clear for folks. I know many of you have been here before and some of you it's your first time, but what makes 1 million cups different as an entrepreneur community is that we're really all about sharing ideas and offering help, asking for help, you know, kind of being a certain level of vulnerable where you feel comfortable sharing like the real journey of being an entrepreneur. And it's really about building community and supporting each other along this road. Was founded from the Kauffman Foundation around the concept that like entrepreneurship is built around potentially 1 million cups of coffee. And you know, some entrepreneur communities have like really promote pitches. We're all about presentations and connecting, but not networking. And we're for the community, by community, entirely volunteer led. And we really try to be radically and intentionally inclusive. And so again, always looking for opportunities to do that better and more. And we actually feel like one of the ways we do that is by staying virtual. It allows people to join us from kind of all over. So that is not to say that we won't ever go back in person. Sometimes we are noodling on ideas for how we might do that in the new year a little bit. So we are part of the 1 million cups nation. There's communities all over the country. Johnny's joining us from the opposite corner of the world, country, and tons of volunteers, tons of entrepreneurs involved. And our 3 pillars are education, presentations, and connections. And so part of the education process happens while you're in the pipeline to actually come and present, but some of that education just always happens here where, you know, there's always something we can learn and be motivated by and be excited by based off of someone else's presentation and their conversation. So special thank you to some of our community sponsors, Method Customization and McLaughlin Method, who help us out with some tech. If you are already a business owner, you know there's a lot of tech involved and it's not cheap. So thank you all for that. And here's, you know, some of our community organizers. We have a couple of new faces that are going to be joining us. But if you didn't know this, one Kauffman Foundation recommends that we have between 7 to 10 volunteers to help us make sure this thing happens. Because again, it's volunteer led. We want to share the, share the hosting duties, share the workloads. So that way we can all enjoy the community, right? So whether you maybe could help with a very specific task or, you know, come kind of join us and want to think about the strategic way that we're going to make this community better, we accept all help. Okay. So you can email us, seattle@1millioncups.com, or, you know, you can also feel free to private message one of us and we're happy to connect. So we've chatted a little bit to start, and then we've got a 6-minute entrepreneur presentation followed by 20 minutes of Q&A and feedback. And we're going to do some more connecting towards the end of today via breakout rooms. So that's where some of the magic really also continues to happen. And so while the presentation happens, we encourage you to like get yourself into a place where you can limit your distractions. I know that I personally can be guilty of this sometimes at 1 million cups of multitasking. So, you know, it's good to kind of just remind ourselves why we come here, right? We come here for that jolt of energy. We come here to support someone else. We come here to be in that community. So, make note of like what stands out to you. What do you want to learn more about? That could generate a question at the end, but maybe there's an opportunity where you can share your expertise. And we encourage you as you're forming kind of your feedback or your questions to think about Rather than using shoulds, you could ask questions starting like, how else could you think about this? Or, have you thought about, or, what makes you choose that direction or what have you? So it's really about kind of being supportive and all of that. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing and invite Johnny up to the virtual mic and to present your business.
Thank you a lot. Also, just to quadruple clarify, I am the only presenter today? Okay. I always want to be conscious if there's another person's time.
Yeah, affirmative. One's enough for this community. We like to give you a lot of support.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So yes, my name is Johnny Crowder, and I am the founder and CEO of a company called Cope Notes that I'm going to walk you through. But real quickly, before I do my screen share and go through my spiel, I did want to mention that I do work in mental health now, but I come from a lived experience perspective. So I am a suicide and abuse survivor. I was in and out of treatment my entire life, diagnosed schizophrenia, bipolar 1, OCD, PTSD, basically you name it. And I've been in and out of treatment for it. And so I went to school for psychology, planning on either becoming a clinician or a social worker, counselor or something. And I got involved with peer support and public advocacy through NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. I'm sure you guys have a chapter up there. And so that was like in 2011. So literally for a decade, I've been doing peer support and public advocacy for mental health. So I'm from the psychology side. I used to do work in creative. I'm saying all this to tell you, I am not the technical co-founder. I'm actually a solo founder who hired a CTO a year too late. So if you have technical questions, I'll do my best to answer, but I'm very much more from the psychology side than I am from the tech side. So I'll do my very best to answer. And I'll do a screen share here so you can see my deck. And really, the easiest way to describe what Cope Notes does to somebody else is we literally added it to our logo to make it easy for everybody. So it literally says daily mental health support. That is exactly what we provide. And the how is we're using text messages to do that. Now, if you're not super familiar with the mental health space, you will probably still be familiar with the problems of the mental health space. So in short, there are people like me in the center who, if you were to walk up to younger me and give me a list of resources that I could use, I would give you a list of reasons why I didn't want to use those resources. Like I'm concerned about cost or privacy or social stigma or even my own self-stigma. Like, what does it say about me if I'm using a mental health resource? Like, there are lots of hurdles to get over. And it actually takes the average American 10 years between onset of symptoms and engagement with care. And for me, it was age 4 to age 14. So I started care when I was 14 years old, but I was exhibiting self-harm symptoms as a toddler, like before elementary school. So by the time you actually work up the courage to reach out to a provider in America, the provider says, sorry, buddy, we are underfunded and understaffed, and we'll try to get to you as soon as we can, but no promises. So either you can get in line, wait for a few months and cross your fingers and hope that you're going to be okay, or you could get in the crisis line and clog up that long line of people who are in really time-sensitive crisis situations. So right now, the entire mental health care system is broken because demand is through the roof and there's no real triage. There's not a focus on prevention or intervention. We're kind of just lumping people into these groups and herding them through like cattle. And a lot of it's such an expensive way to go about it, both in terms of obviously finances, but also human capital. Like we are losing people because of these inefficiencies. And before I get into how Cope Notes resolves these things, I did want to touch on the fact that Cope Notes is not an app. Everyone says, I couldn't find you on the App Store. It's because we're not on there. It is not an app. It's just plain text messages like you have with your friends and family. So some of the reasons are obvious at the top of the slide. You'll see obviously you don't have to download anything. There are no software updates. You don't have to remember passwords. Kind of importantly, that long terms and conditions thing that you don't read and you just press agree. a lot of the times when you download something, your personal information, your data is shared with Apple or Google through your phone when you make that download. So lots, I mean, I could go on and on about why we didn't want to make it an app, but the three main reasons are engagement, preference, and equity. So on an engagement side, the odds of you engaging with an app notification are between 1.7 and 4%. So really not likely. The odds of you opening a plain old text messages are 99%. So it's like not even a contest. It's just a far more effective way to communicate with people. And then you might feel like saying, well, that's great for youth, but what about us adults? We're so refined and distinguished. And in fact, 97% of American adults prefer texting to any other medium. So it's almost true across demographic that texting is the most effective way to communicate. But really the most important piece on this slide is the equity component. So on the top right, you'll see that 2.5 billion people don't have smartphones. They use non-smart cellular devices. So they can't download even the greatest mental health app. And you might say that sounds more like a developing economy issue, and it's not. I mean, 11% of the US population, or 36 million Americans, can't use even the greatest mental health app because they're using a non-smart cell phone. And that just didn't sit right with me. The idea that I would put all this time and energy into creating something that would leave people out just because they don't have the newest iPhone, it just did not seem fair. So I wanted to focus on accessibility. And the solution is, I did say on the first page that we provide daily mental health support via text message. So that much you know. What you might not know is the how, which is really cool. So a lot of resources are basically all the content is written by doctors and then reviewed by peers. And a lot of times this creates like a really clinical, jargony, stiff vibe where you feel like a patient. And we flipped it. So much like AA is peer-based with clinical oversight, that's exactly what we do. So all of our content is written by real peers with lived experience, not chat bots or AI, real human beings who are writing about what they've been through. And they're writing these short, conversational, easy to understand text messages that will include a psychology fact or a journaling prompt or an exercise, some type of content that will help you grow in the right direction. And then it's reviewed by a clinical oversight panel. So these are the mental health professionals that make sure that everything is legit, like based on proven psychological principles, trauma informed, stuff like that. And then maybe this is the coolest part. It's kind of a tie, but written by peers with lived experience, reviewed by clinicians. Then in the top right, you'll see brain training. It's not like we just blast out the text to everybody all at once, like a spam message. Every Cope Note subscriber gets a different text at a different time. So no two people ever get the same text at the same time. Everyone has their own unique text sequence. So you can't help but receive a text from Cope Notes and ask yourself, like, why me? Why now? I'm the only person in the world to get this text. How does this apply to my life? How can I take action? And this actually happened to me this morning. I'll share during Q&A if anybody wants to hear about it. But this happened to me. I'm a subscriber. It happened to me this morning. And then the digital journaling component, we do encourage our subscribers to text back and speak freely. And we tell them this is not a real-time conversation with a crisis counselor or anything like that. We have partners who do that. We can hook you up with them. But this is your journal. So just like a physical journal won't judge what you say, but it also won't pat you on the back for doing something great. It's that freedom from external validation that builds something called emotional independence, which is what we are fostering. Every time you share without positive or negative consequence, you learn that it is okay to share, and you become less dependent on other people encouraging you to do that, which is super crucial for treatment. And the reason why people feel safe to say whatever they want, whenever they want in this text thread, and text us 75 times a day if they want, is because on the bottom left, you'll see that it is 100% anonymous and confidential, which means right now, Tiara and Aaron and Valerie could all sign up for subscriptions, and I would have no idea that they did. We figured the best way to protect someone's information is to not collect it in the first place. So we don't collect names, addresses, anything like that. You type your phone number in and we text that phone number, period. No demographic questionnaire, no profile to fill out. You just start using it. One of the many reasons why I like Cope Notes, because of how easy it is to start using. The neuroscience page, I'll try to make short work of this. I literally gave a TED talk on the science behind Cope Notes. I am a neuroscience nerd. I did go to school for psych, I warned you. So I'll try to keep this short and sweet. Essentially, your brain doesn't actually care whether or not a thought pattern is positive or negative or healthy or unhealthy. Your brain's primary objective as an organ in your body is to save calories. It's to do whatever it can do to save as many calories as possible so that you can survive. And as a result, it will default to the shortest possible length where I'm going to get way too sciencey. It will default to the easiest thought to think. So what that means is if you have a negative thought like my hair looks bad today, or why did I say that? I sound so stupid when I say that. And your brain starts thinking, oh yeah, thinking that familiar thought will require less calories. Over time, that's how your brain forms thought patterns. And Cope Notes is delivering something called ecological momentary interventions, or EMIs, which is a fancy way of saying that we are interrupting negative thought patterns in real time. Not when you drive to a therapist's office or when you choose to open a self-help book. I mean, it's interrupting. You're sitting in traffic, your baby's crying, your boss is yelling at you, and you receive this interruption, and it interrupts a negative thought pattern and provides a catalyst for positive thought. And over time, through enough randomized repetition, your brain starts forming new neural pathways associated with positive thought. And we say that Cope Notes is like brain surgery without the scalpel because your brain physically changes the way it is wired over time. The repetition and consistency is important, but also that randomization. Much like you can't tickle yourself because you know you're doing it, it's also really hard to surprise your brain. So that's what we're doing for people. And it says the first set it and forget it mental health resource, because for an individual, you make one decision to sign up and we reach out to you every day from then on. So you don't have to remember to like log into an app or open a book or anything like that. And we have 3 different subscription tiers. So one is personal. So just like if Katie wanted one for herself, she could sign up. And then gift and family subscriptions. So that's like if Katie wanted to get one for a spouse or a family member or a coworker that might be struggling, or even her whole family, to foster this kind of culture around general awareness around mental wellness. But around 75-80% of our revenue comes from this third enterprise option. So these are these larger organizations that we partner with who actually pay so that individuals can use it for free. So like a school might buy a subscription and provide free student wellness resources through Cope Notes, or an employer might provide it as a benefit, and so on. We work with governments a lot too, through their health and human services and social services agencies. And that way individuals like can just sign up free of cost and not have to worry about that, especially those underserved populations. But the whole goal was to make Cope Notes really affordable at scale. Like we can serve millions of people at the same time. We built this to be infinitely scalable. So a full year of Cope Notes costs less than one therapy session. So other vendors, digital health vendors, will charge $260 a month, $420 a month, and Cope Notes is like $10 a month. Based on your preferences, it might go up and down by like $1, but it really is super affordable at scale, which is why we're interested in serving those larger groups.
And Johnny, I'm going to encourage you to kind of wrap up.
Oh yeah. This is the last
get
slide.
To the juicy convo.
Yeah. So this is the last slide. I'll skip the testimonials on the right. They're on our website. I'll skip the partner list at the bottom. That is also on our website if you guys are interested. Really, the last thing I would want to mention here is like the reason why I'm passionate about Cope Notes is because I've lived through it, but also now that we've served 21,000 users, we know that it works. Like we've had thousands of people fill out feedback forms, and of those users, 86% reported improved mental health within 30 days, which is astonishing. If you're not within the mental wellness field, you don't understand how astonishing that number is. So I always put it at the end of the presentation as like a sweet brag, so that we can open up the dialogue part with you guys knowing, you know, we may be new, but we're definitely on to something because it's working. So I'll go to this slide that just has the website and our contact info on it, and we can do Q&A.
Cool. All righty. Well, thanks, Johnny. Big virtual hand and applause for Johnny. on a personal note, this hits home for me. I also struggle with mental health, and I think it's so awesome that you're doing this, and very timely with going into the holidays where a lot of folks tend to struggle. So thank you for everything you're doing. If you have a question or a conversation or a comment or feedback, please go ahead and use the reactions tab down in the bar, and you can raise your hand. You can also wave around, and I will note that you are raising your hand. And yeah, we'll look forward to some good conversation. And, so that way we can, get to everything. I encourage everyone to consider a one breath question, and Johnny, for you to consider a one breath answer. Right. This is all about starting conversations, and then we can hopefully continue connecting. I know I want to have lots of nerdy conversations with you about neuroscience. So Tiara is first up.
Good. That was amazing, Johnny. I was looking forward to this ever since we first talked a couple months ago. So yeah, very, very good. My question is, how did you think to go the enterprise route? That's something that I'm kind of starting in my business by working with nonprofits and basically having them pay for the education on credit and the actual repair. I'm curious how you thought of that in the beginning.
One breath. I didn't think of it at all. People kept asking for it, and I couldn't meet the need because I didn't build this for enterprise. So we got so many requests that I felt like I was missing out on an opportunity and had to start optimizing for that. So in my opinion, the market will tell you what you should be doing, which is why I do 1 million cups, because you guys are going to ask me questions that make me realize what I should be doing.
Excellent. Yes. Dan.
Yes. Thanks for the presentation. I thought it was pretty informative about mental health in general, so that was nice. A couple of things. One is if, let's say that I am one of those users that doesn't have a smartphone, maybe I don't even have easy access to internet, like I have to go to the library or something. Is there a way to sign up if I just had a non-smartphone, like a number I could call or a text, or is there some way I can sign up without internet access, or do I have to have internet initially? And then secondly, second question. Also, I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit to how we can help you, but what are the types of organizations, this enterprise that you said, what are the types of organizations that you are like in your sweet spot as far as like if we had contacts with an organization, what are the types of organizations that you're hoping to connect with?
So first question was, can you please remind me?
Sorry. That first question was, I don't have a smartphone or internet connection. Can I sign up?
Yeah. So in cases like that, either they would need to sign themselves up at like a local library or something like that. Or in a lot of cases like that, there's a community organization that they can get a subscription from where like the case manager or whoever they're contacting can sign them up. So like if I work at a veterans organization and someone asks for a subscription, I can type their phone number in and activate their subscription for them. So that's the solution that we've used, even like with mobile crisis response units. If they go out to a location to serve somebody and they don't have internet, the mobile crisis response unit person can pull it up on their phone and activate that person's subscription. And then the other question, types of organizations. I put a link in the chat in the interest of keeping my answer short. That is, if you scroll down, you'll see our partnerships, our list of community partnerships. You'll see there's virtually no rhyme or reason. It's like all sorts of places. I think because the need is varied. I would say our best work lately has been with nonprofits, schools, governments, which I never saw coming, like city and county government, and then like businesses for employee wellness.
Sweet. And Johnny put his partnerships link in the chat, and there's an affiliate program. So if y'all want to become referrers and send that along, I just signed up because that's my jam. I love telling people about stuff.
Oh, nice.
Anyways, Sarah.
Well, actually, my question has just been answered with that partnerships link that I was just having a look at, because I run a large community for people with arthritis, and people with arthritis have a much higher incidence of depression and anxiety because they're living with chronic pain. They're more likely to not be in employment and you know, have a lot of challenges associated with those things. So yeah, well, my question was originally going to be, how do you work with those kinds of communities? But I think it's been answered.
Yes, definitely. That's interesting about chronic pain. I want to do more digging into that after this call.
Yeah, if you ever, so I run a business selling products for people with arthritis, but I also run a big community. I'm very involved in the chronic pain community. If you ever want to have a chat, I'm very happy to share information. I'll pop my email in the box.
That sounds awesome.
Cool. Jay.
Well, thank you for the presentation. That I think this is super timely too. I work at the library, and I work with a lot of different technical assistance partners around the library, and sit in on a lot of conversations about like what's happening, with our finger on the pulse of what's happening in the community. You know, what's happening there, you know, on the like people coming into the library side. Yeah, people share a lot of stuff that with their librarian that feels a lot like sometimes sharing with their psychologist or something. But that aside, one of the things that I've been hearing from the community of entrepreneurs and started hearing it last summer was like, you know, let's face it, the pandemic has disproportionately affected entrepreneurs specifically in this area. You know, they've, you know, to keep that business running has been just so much to keep that going, and to one of the particular areas that I've been here, so I think that's one of the reasons I think this is super timely, and I love that. But one area is that I've been hearing from is a need for support in not just other languages, but also like cultural competency, you know, like, you know, someone who, because different cultures look at mental health in different ways. So I'm just curious if there's if there is a plan or something for to help people in other languages, but also like with that cultural competency of other groups within our area.
So we kind of got into, so originally Cope Notes was just in the US, and I had the bright idea of, well, I didn't have the bright idea. We had a big like Fortune prospect client that said, we need you to build international functionality because we have employees out of the country. So I was like, okay, let's build that. And then we didn't realize that like people would talk to people and tell people that it existed. And eventually we have users in 94 countries right now.
Wow.
And all of whom are English speaking somehow. I don't know even how that happens because we haven't done other languages yet. But what it has created, Jay, is the need to diversify our clinical oversight panel so that we have people who are living in different countries and having different cultural perspectives on stuff. And we also have, I think one thing that's helped a lot is we have a feedback loop built into our system where, like, if we send you a text, Jay, and you're like, honestly, this makes me feel weird as someone who wears glasses. I don't really like that. That feedback is relayed to our oversight panel, and they can make real-time edits to feedback so that the next person to receive that content receives an updated version of it. So we have a living text library that is constantly growing and changing based on that feedback. But it is something that that feels daunting. Like, as we continue growing and build in other languages, I'm like, how am I supposed to know everything everybody needs? And the answer is, you don't have to know. You just need to find people who do.
Yeah, I say that with like knowing that this is that's a really hard, that's a really hard set of steps. My colleague Tina, who's a member of the CHOM community, was sharing when we were talking about this. She said, in our language, there is no word for mental health. It translates to broken brain. That's like that. And so of course there's going to be a barrier of like, oh, you need broken brain help, that. So there's so many barriers, even just embedded in the language itself.
Yeah.
I know this is a really tough thing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not the first time I've heard that, Jay. I think there's a couple of languages that's the only translation. And yeah, super problematic, right? So Matthew.
Yeah, thank you, Johnny. That's really cool. I have like people I want to send the website to and just like encourage people to use it. As a non-technical founder, as you'd mentioned earlier, what has been maybe one of your biggest challenges in terms of addressing the technical side of this application and or getting yourself to be the leader, founder of an organization that relies on technology? Can you share some thoughts on that?
I would say, if I can just show my cards to everybody right now, one of my earliest and like borderline fatal flaws that almost killed Cope Notes was my overconfidence in my ability to figure out the tech side on my own. So I sustained Cope Notes for about a year before I met who is our now CTO, Matthew Cross, who is like an absolute genius. And I was repurposing existing software, copying and pasting and using Google Sheets for content. I am telling you, it was so error prone and error ridden. And we only had like 100 users or something, or 200 users. It was a really small user base. And Matt reached out to me on Facebook and said, do you mind if I take a look? I'm in between jobs. I saw what you're working on and would like to take a peek. So he took a look and he was like, Johnny, this will break once you pass 200 users. Like what you're doing literally cannot happen. Like there are SMS laws. I didn't even know what microservice meant. So he was like, let me help you. And I said, I don't have money and I'm pretty sure I can figure it out on my own. I didn't say it like this, but this is what I thought. I was like, I don't have any money. I don't even understand what I'm doing well enough to understand the necessity of what you're offering me. So I'm going to just say that I'll Google it and figure it out. And I genuinely think that if Matt hadn't been persistent and I hadn't gotten to like him and understand his value, that Cope Notes would have failed. Like for a message to all non-technical founders, and I mean this with all due respect, it's like saying that the right half of your brain can do what the left half of your brain can do. It's not about how smart you are. It's two completely different skill sets. So please value the balance of having a true technical mind working on it. I can't believe Cope Notes is still alive, because if he would have said, okay, never mind, we wouldn't be a company.
Well, thank you for that real answer, because I think that's really what 1 Million Cups Seattle especially is really all about, is like, what does it really take to do this? And actually that was going to be kind of the crux of my question was, cool, you have this really like awesome setup. Like I want to hear how the F you got here, because that we all have to start there, right? And so like, thank you. I really feel like that helped a lot. So I'm going to pivot my question, since I feel like you gave us the insights to that. And I'd be curious, like, so you went from, 100 users to, multiple thousand, tens of thousands. And I'm curious, like, what have been some of the things that you have done from like a marketing perspective, and a user, like a customer acquisition perspective, that you feel like have really worked, and what maybe hasn't worked? Share us a little bit about that.
So we are bootstrapped. So we don't have any VC or outside capital, which means that we have to get really scrappy with customer acquisition. So early Cope Notes, I'm not lying, it looked like passing out flyers at gas stations and walking around college campuses with a clipboard, asking people for their phone numbers. I mean, it was not pretty, folks. And then over the course of a couple years, now I've been doing public advocacy for mental health for like over a decade. So I have like spoken at a lot of events, and I'm like a public speaker. That's like what I've been doing for work. So I started speaking at conferences that I would normally speak at, like mental health conferences, and asking, can I please have a table there? Like as part of my speaking fee, can I set up a Cope Notes table and like peddle my wares? So that has helped get us into like the community organizations kind of. And I will also say press has been huge for us because it's like a sticky, fun kind of story. Like suicide survivor makes mental health resource that is super wholesome, and you can share it with your friends and family, and it's like a shareable story. So I think press has been invaluable because the reason why we have users in so many countries is because we did like a ton of local press features. Like, I mean, super low budget, like some of them turned out so bad. You could probably find them on YouTube or Google if you tried. Early Cope Notes features that were pressed, but with enough of those working, like enough podcast interviews and local press features and small time magazine interviews, if you have like 500 of those circulating at any given time, maybe one of them will become like, will find its way to the front page of Reddit, which is what happened to us, which was horrifying. That's a separate story, but it almost broke everything. But we've really gone, because we don't have the money to like do a huge PR campaign or advertising or marketing, we've said, how about we long tail this? So now I do like 2 or 3 podcast interviews a week and just try to put as much like thought leadership stuff out there as possible. But eventually like that stops being scalable. So I'd love to hire a marketing person like really soon.
Nice. Cool. Well, yeah, again, thanks for all of that insight. I think that, that's another thing that we can all be reminded about and learn on this journey that that we might be on, whether you're an entrepreneur yet, thinking about it, et cetera, right? That there's all these different ways. And, what I heard in what you just shared was that persistence pays off, right? That like, just keep doing it. And then then you need more help because you have a landslide of folks. We always follow up with, what can the Women in Cups community do for you? And, this is really to help foster connection and further connection with you. So curious what your answer would be.
So I'm going to start by saying I always forget to do this. I'm putting my LinkedIn link in the chat. So please, I don't want this to be like a one and done and we never talk again. Like, please let us keep up with each other and like have an ongoing conversation. I don't want to feel confined to just this meeting, but it kind of goes back to a question that we got earlier, which was like, how did you think to do enterprise? I never thought that. Like other people said that. And that is how Cope Notes has been built. It's like, has not been built by me. It has been built by people saying, how come I can't choose when you can and can't text me? And I'm like, shoot, that's genius. So other people have guided this company. So my real question for you is like, it's specifically about go-to-market. And it's this, is there an opportunity in the marketplace that we are not aware of? Because people I don't know, markets I don't know. And the truth of the matter is we wouldn't be serving government if someone didn't say, have you spoken with Ann Sutherland at the Department of Mental Health and Homelessness at Orange County? And it literally became our largest contract ever and our first government contract. It got us out of COVID debt and allowed us to make hires. So people like that in your network that I haven't met yet. So my question is, or my real ask is, like my mentor said, if someone offers you $1 million check or an email introduction to someone you don't know, always take the email introduction because you never know where that will lead. Mm-hmm. If you do have $1 million check, please also send that to me. But assuming that you don't have that, if you know someone I should know, please, for the love of all that is holy, make an email introduction because those have sustained this company for 4 years.
Yeah, nice. Great. So if you enjoyed the conversation today and you liked how people got cool feedback, please apply to present. If you have presented before, we always love hearing what we call a refill presentation. So fill our cup back up again and tell us like where you are now. And, we can ask more questions like I asked Johnny, like how'd you get here and all that. We'd love to hear that. And again, let us know if you'd like to get involved, and most importantly, bring a friend, right? So next week, after you save our link tree, next week, we already had Cope notes, so I'm just going to stop sharing. But next week is the day before Thanksgiving. So it's going to be super chill, super just like, if you're able to come, great. But if not, we're going to be getting back to presentations in December. And yeah, so glad you're all here, and we'll get our breakout rooms set up. Reminder about breakout rooms, it's a free pass to go whenever you feel like you are full, but we encourage you to keep the conversation going, keep connecting with folks. And Tiara, we good on the breakout rooms? Sweet.
1 second.
And